Assalamu alaikum. In this short video, I would like to introduce Angular CLI, which is a command line utility to help you create Angular projects and Angular components. So to be able to use it, you first need to install it using npm install -g, which means you will install it globally and you install it once and you can use it for any Angular project. So to install it, you just need to use npm install -g at Angular CLI. Once you install it, you can make use of it to create an application using ng-new followed by the name of the application. You can also use it to create components, directives, routes, pipe, services, and to do so you use ng followed by either g or generate, followed by either one of these and the name of the component. Now, you can also use it to build the application, which means to translate the TypeScript code into plain JavaScript code. You can also run the ng build with this watch flag, and this flag basically means that the build system will watch your files. Whenever you make any changes, it will auto rebuild. ng-serve allows you to run your Angular app. You can also do ng-serve with the -o, and this flag will allow will tell ng-serve to watch your source code. Whenever you make any changes, it will rebuild and redeploy and refresh your application. So now let me show you how to use this in a context of an end-to-end client-server application. First, let's start with an application that just has the server side fully working. So let's explore this. So what I put here, this is the heroes application. I put all the code related to the server side under the folder called server. And in there we find the controller, the actual data that we will use to initialize the database, the model that has the schema of our entities as well as the repository. We also have the route that define our various routes that the application provides. And note that these routes are all API routes. We will use Angular to create the user interface. And then in the root folder of this application, I have the app.js. The app.js, as you know, it imports all the libraries needed to create a web application. And then you are familiar with all of this. At the end, I will go ahead and run the app. So to run the application, I right-click on the app.js and do a run. It will start the server. It is listening at this URL. If I click there, there is no UI for this app. We haven't built the UI yet, but I can get to the API by saying API/heroes, and I get all the heroes here. If I want to get one particular hero, I can specify it as a parameter in the URL. Okay, so far we have the application, the server side of the application up and running. What we need to do next is to create the client side. So to be able to create the client side, one simple way to do it, you first come to this package.json and rename it, because when we create an Angular application using the Angular CLI, it will create another package.json, and it will not, because this application already has package.json, the Angular CLI will not allow me to create an application in this folder. So So let's give it a try. So first, to create a client-side Angular application and to have it integrated with this server-side part of the application, I can basically do ng new. The name of the application is heroes, and here there is a flag called minimal. I want to keep it very simple. I don't want to generate any testing spec files, and I want to keep it as simple as possible, so I pass this flag minimal. Also, I would like it to be created under the heroes folder without creating another subfolder called heroes. So that's why I pass this parameter here saying to Angular CLI, create the heroes application in the current folder. So what I will do before I actually, this is the command I am supposed to run. But first, I just want to have a look and to get an idea what files will be generated when I create this application. When I create this application, what files get generated? So I'll copy this command. So to just list the files without actually creating them, there is a flag called --dry run. So I'll copy this command, go to the command line, and I'll try it out. Now Angular CLI is complaining that this project already has package.json. So what I will do, I will rename this package.json to package.json2, and I will retry creating the app. So using the --dry run, these are the files that will get created. And notice here that the client-side application will be created under src subfolder, and in the src subfolder I will have an app subfolder, and inside the app subfolder I will put all the components, the services, and the client-side classes. Now I am happy with this list of files. They look reasonable. So it is now time to really go ahead and create the app. So to create the app, I do ng new, the name of the app, and this flag is saying don't create test files, keep it simple. And I want it to be created inside the current directory. So I'll go ahead and run this command. So now what Angular CLI is doing, it's downloading all the packages that are needed for Angular, the client-side packages that are needed, and it will create a package.json file, and it adds all the client-side dependencies for us to build an Angular application on the client side. So once this package.json is created, what I will do, I will open that new package.json, and then inside it, I will add these dependencies. So these dependencies are for my server-side component, and the Angular dependencies will be for the client side. So you see here, the Angular CLI has created this package.json, and it has all the Angular modules that I will need to really create the app. So you can see here we do not have here the server-side packages for my applications, such as the Express.js, such as the body parser, and so on. So that's why I renamed the previous package to package 2, so I can basically cut those server-side dependencies and add them to the new package.json that was generated. And now I don't need this anymore. All my dependencies are defined here. I can safely delete this one. Okay. Now, like the Angular CLI has generated a simple app with the one component, which is the app component, and I'm ready to basically give it a try and I run it. So to run an Angular app, I will just say ng serve, and this will build the app and it will make it available in this location. So if I go here, if I go to this URL, so I will get the default component that was generated by Angular CLI. But the issue is I already have a server-side app that I want to run on this port 9080. While if I just use Angular built-in web server, mainly used for testing, it is listed on port 4200. So what I really, because I have a I have a client side which is Angular, I have a server side which is based on Express. What I will do instead of running the app using ng-serve, instead what I will not run it using ng-serve. I will basically just build the app, ng-build. What ng-build will do, it will compile the application and put the compiled version of the Angular application in a folder called dist. So if I open this, you see here a new folder created. One of the files is index.html. And this index.html is pointing to the JavaScript files that was generated by this ng-build. Now what I will do in my server-side application, I go to app.js, and all I need to do, I will add this middleware, Express static middleware, and I will say make the content of this dist folder available from the application. So without this line, I cannot access the content of this folder here, which is called dist. So before I can run the app, I forgot to mention, I need to do npm install, because in package.json, what I'm doing is I am merging, I have merged the server-side dependencies with the client-side dependencies, and I need to rerun npm install to be able to run the application. Now, if I comment this line, which means I'm not adding the static middleware to make this dist folder available, what will happen is when I run the app and I visit the URL, I don't get the Angular application running. I don't get it running. So for me to be able to access the Angular application, I need to make this dist folder accessible via Express. So we've seen this before. All I need to do, I go to the app and say use this static middleware and make this dist folder accessible. This __ dir name, this is the current folder, which means the root folder, and I am going to the subfolder dist. So if I rerun the app and visit the page or visit the URL, I will end up in the I will immediately end up in the Angular application. So the way it is working is that by default, when I visit the root of the URL, the root of the application, or the root URL of the application, by default, Angular will try by default, Express will try to visit a page called index.html. And this index.html, by default, even if you don't put it, it will be served from this folder dist. And this folder dist has a file called index.html. So even if I don't specify index.html, by default, the Node.js app will give me the index.html, and this index.html is the shell page for my SPA application. This folder, this file or this index.html will load all the JavaScript files that are needed for my app. Now that I have the basic Angular components up and running, it's time to create some new components beyond the one that came out of the box when you create an Angular app. So, for example, I can create a heroes component that will allow me to list the list of heroes. So to do so, I go to the command line and I basically type in ng for generate. I want to generate a component, and this is the name of the component. When I do so, these are two files that get created, and the app module has been also updated. So if I go to source under app, you can see here there is a new folder created for my new component called heroes. And inside there, I will find the class where I can put the logic for my component, and here is the template for my component. Also, this heroes component has been added to the app module. So an Angular app is made up of one or many modules. So by default, when you create an Angular app using Angular CLI, a component gets created. And in here, in this component, I have to declare in this module, I have to declare all the components that comprise this application. And that's it. My application is now ready to code the first component, which is the heroes component. And now you can go through the details of these components and how they work through by learning and going through the example that I have posted on GitHub. Thank you.